Hi everyone, welcome to a new video. In this video, I will show you the step to solve a quadratic equation by factorization when the reading coefficient a is 1. We'll have another video when a is not 1, but in this video, we'll look at the case when a is 1. I'll show you also examples of how to apply these steps. And I will tell you about a mistake that you should avoid, otherwise you will get a wrong solution. And we'll see in this video that the way to do this factorization is to look for certain factors for a number. We'll see the rules in the video. At the end, we'll use some logic to see what's the nature of these factors. That will help you to find these factors much faster, and so you can do the factorization a bit faster than trying all combinations. So stick around. Let's start by solving quadratic equation by factorization when a is 1. So we know that the general or the standard format for quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c. When a is 1, so we'll have it in the following form: x squared plus bx plus c. So first, let me explain to you the general approach to solve this using factorization, and then we'll look at a few examples to illustrate that method. So the first step is to make sure that the quadratic equation is on the standard form. This may lead to a mistake if it is not in a standard form. I will also show you an example of that common mistake. The other key step is that you will be looking for two numbers, and these numbers, they should multiply out to c. So if this is 5, we are looking for two numbers that multiply to 5. The other condition that they should add up to the middle coefficient or b. Once you find these two numbers, which is the key step, then you can write the factor for this quadratic equation as x plus n1 and x plus n2, and n1 and n2 are the number that we find in the second step. Solution then can be found easily by setting this coefficient to 0. So it's either the first coefficient equal to 0 or the second coefficient equal to 0. Now let's look at some examples to illustrate the process. Our first example is the following: x squared plus 5x plus 4 equal to 0. So it's clear that this is on the standard form. So the next thing is to find two numbers. So we are looking for two numbers. These numbers should multiply, and they should give us 4. So we look at the last constant coefficient. This gives us the multiplication value. And when we add them, we should get 5. Okay, so we're looking for these two numbers. When we multiply, we get 4, and when we add, we get 5. The way to deal with this is to look at the different way we can get 4. So 4, we can get it by multiplying 1 times 4, or I can multiply 4 times 1, or I can multiply 2 times 2. And in this case, we can see that this one or the second one actually give you summation of 5. So any one of these will work out. In general, when both the multiplication value and the summation value are positive, it's sufficient just to consider one of these two, 1 times 4 or 4 times 1. There is no need to consider both. However, if you did that, there is no harm also. So we take one of them, for example. We can take the first one. So what we'll do next, we write this as two factors: x plus the first number there is 1 times x. The second number we find is 4 equal to 0. You have two factors that give 0. So one of them has to be 0. You cannot get 0 unless one of them is 0. This means that x plus 1 is equal to 0, or the other possibility is x plus 4 is equal to 0. And from this one, we can find x equal to minus 1. We can subtract 1 from both sides, so this gives you x equal to minus 1. Or from the second equation here, we can also find x equal to minus 4. Again, we can subtract 4 from both sides, that give you x minus 4. And so these are the solution to the quadratic you can verify. So let's verify this. It's good always to verify that you get the right solution. Sometimes you may make a simple mistake and the solution that you get at the end is not correct. So for x equal to 1, let's see what do we get. So the left-hand side of the equation, remember this side is called the left-hand side and this is called the right-hand side. In this case, it's 0. So the left-hand side, what we'll do is substitute the value of -1 on the left-hand side. So we'll get -1 squared plus 5 times -1 plus 4. And what we'll get here is 1 minus 5 plus, we add the positive terms, 1 and 4 is 5, and the only negative term is 5. So we'll have 5 minus 5 give you 0, which is the right hand side. So it means this x minus 1 is correct. For x equal to -4, again, we can do the same thing. The left hand side is equal to -4 squared plus 5 minus 4 plus 4. So this is 16 minus 5 times 4, 20, and plus 4. Again, if we add the positive term, 16 and 4, that is 20. And the only negative term is minus 20. So 20 minus 20 is 0. Again, the right hand side. So this also correct solution. So this is a way you can use to double check that you solve the problem correctly. Now let's also look at another example. So here we have x minus 2x minus 8 equal to 0. Again, we are looking for two numbers. And when we multiply these, we should get -8. You need to take into consideration the sign. And when you add them, you should get -2. So again, now the general approach, we start with the multiplication value and we see how we can get that number. So we can have -1 times 8, 1 times -8. You can also have -2 times 4. You can have 2 times -4. Notice when the multiplication is minus, then the two numbers should have a different sign. In order to get a minus, you need to have the two numbers with different signs. Okay, so you can see that I can get it having 1 times 8. 1 times 8 gives us 8, but here we need to consider both, whether the 1 is the minus or the 8 is the minus. And similarly for 2 times 4 give us 4, but again we need to consider whether the 2 is the -1 or the 4 is the -1. Anyway, looking at these possibilities, we see that the only one that when we add the two numbers give us -2 is this. We have -4 plus 2 that give us -2. So these are the two numbers that we are looking for. So the next step is to write the vectors. So x plus 2 and x plus -4 equal to 0. Of course, we can write this in a simple way. We know that plus and minus will give you minus. Whenever you have the different sign that's equivalent to minus, equal to 0. Again, we are multiplying two factors, and so one of them has to be 0. So this means either x plus 2 0 or x minus 4 equal to 0. And from the first equation here, we can subtract 2. So this will give us -2 here. Or here, in order to solve this, we can add 4 to both sides. So when we add 4 here, this will cancel out. And in the other side, we'll get 4. These are the two numbers. Again, you can verify just to make sure that you get it right. So 4x equal to -2. Again, we can look at the left-hand side. And we substitute in this equation. So we get -2 squared. It's -2 times -2 minus 8. And this -2 squared would give us 4. And here, -2 times -2, again, we get 4 minus 8. And clearly this is 0, which is the right sign. So we verify that -2 is a correct solution. So 4x equal to 4. Again, I can write the left-hand side. 4 where -2 times 4 minus 8. 4 squared is 16. 2 times 4 give us 8. and this is 8. We can see that the negative terms add up to 16, and we have only one positive term, which is 16. So this gives us 0, which is the right-hand side. So this is, again, verify. Again, this step is extra step that you can use to make sure that you are getting the solution. But up to here, you already solved the quadratic equation. So let's also look at one last example. Write x squared minus x plus 12 equals to 0. So again, we are looking for two numbers. So when you multiply them, it should give us 12. And when we add them, we should get minus 7. So again, we start by looking at different ways to form the 12. So we can have 1 times 12. Now, since the summation is minus 7, we know that this is correct in terms of multiplication, but it will be a waste of time to consider all of these positive terms. So we can directly also go directly to the negative value. So you can say minus 1 times minus 12, and then you can also say minus 12 times minus 1. It doesn't matter in this case. And also minus 2 times minus 6, or minus 6 times minus 2, and minus 3 times minus 4, or minus 4 times minus 3. Since, again, the signs of both of them are the same, you don't need to consider 1 times 12 or 12 times 1. Just one of them will be enough, because, again, they will add to the same value. That's minus 3 plus minus 4 is the same as minus 4 plus 3. So any one of these should be fine. So if we select this one, then we can factorize this as x plus minus 3 and x plus minus 4 equals to 0. I can simplify this by writing x minus 3 times x equal to 0. So again, one of them has to be 0, so either x minus 3 equal to 0 or x minus 4 equal to 0. And again, I can add 3 to both sides, so this will give you x equal to 3 or x equal to 4. Again, you can verify and not do that step here, but you can, again, if you want to double check your solution, you can verify that. Now, as I said, there is one common mistake is that people sometimes will not start with the standard form. So if you have something like this, x squared minus 2x minus 3 is equal to 12. Common mistake is that this is not standard form, but what people might do is that they can go and factorize this one. So they can write x minus 3 and x plus 1 equal to 12. You can see quickly here that minus 3 times 1 give us the last number, and if you add minus 3 plus 1 give you minus. The mistake is that people say, okay, x minus 3 is equal to 12, or x plus 1 equal to 12. This is wrong. You cannot conclude that this is 12 or this is 12. There are different ways to form 12. It can be 3 times 4, 2 times 6, 6 times 2, 1 times 12. So you cannot conclude. When this is in this side is 0, it's possible to conclude that one of them is 0, because you cannot get 0 unless one of them is 0. So the right way is that you make this in the standard form. This is the first step we mentioned. You have to make it in the standard. So this is minus 3. And then I subtract 12 from both sides. Then you get 0. And so this will give you minus 15. And then you can solve it using the method that we see. Now let's discuss the two numbers that we need to find out. Key step is to find two numbers that multiply out to give us C and add up to give us B. Now, in many cases, you may find yourself you need to consider many combinations. And so if you use a bit of logic, you can reduce the number of combinations that you need to find what are the two numbers. Let me give you an example. So if C was 20, we know that we are looking for a number that gives us 20. Now, there are so many possibilities to get 20. You can say 1 times 20. You can say 20 times 1. So you get the idea. There might be so many combinations and might be larger in other cases. If we look at B and B is positive, then we know that really doesn't make sense to consider those with negative numbers, because we know that they add up to a negative value. And similarly, if p was negative, then there is no need to consider the positive number. So here we're trying to look at what kind of number we should expect based on the sign of b and c, and that can help you to reduce the number of combinations that you need to look at. So for example, we start with the case where the b have a positive sign and c have a negative sign. Then we are looking for two numbers that when we multiply them, we get negative value, and when we add them, we have positive value. Since multiplication is negative, then they have to be opposite. One of them negative and one of them is positive. And since the sum is positive, then the larger one should be positive. Here an example, when we have x squared plus x minus 20. So minus 20, we need just to consider a combination that have opposite sign, but the larger one should be positive, because when we add them, we want to get plus 1. Another case might be that b is negative and c is positive. Positive c mean both number are negative or both are positive. And since b is negative, then both number has to be negative because we want to get a negative number when we add them. So for example, if you look at this x squared minus 9x plus 20, this is positive, so we need to consider either both positive or both negative. But since this is negative, we only need to consider negative combination. So we have minus 5 times minus 4, so that when we add them, we get minus 9. Obviously, if we consider 5 times 4, they will give you 20, but when you add them, you will not get negative value. Another combination when both b and c are positive. In that case, we are looking for two positive numbers because we need them to be adding up to a positive number. So both has to be positive. So an example here is x squared plus 9x plus 20. 5 times 4 give us 20. And when we add them, they will give you plus 9. If you consider negative value, minus 5 and minus 4, you will get 20 when you multiply them, but when you add them, you get negative value. So it will not work out. The last case is when both of them are negative. Again, when c is negative, you are looking for two numbers with opposite sign. But in this case, since the addition is negative, the larger one of the two numbers should be negative. Here we have an example, x squared minus x minus 20 equal to 0. So you have minus 5 times 4 that give you minus 20. And when you add them, you will get minus 5 plus 4 give you minus 1. So this just show you what kind of number that you're looking for based on the signs. Again, if you consider all possible combination, that is fine. However, that could be a waste of time because you don't need all of the combination. You need just a certain type of combination. Another thing that also you need to eliminate is whenever the two numbers have the same sign, so both numbers are positive and both of them are negative, you don't need to consider the order. 1 times 20 is the same as 20 times 1. But when the sign is opposite, you need to consider the order because one combination will give you a positive number, the other will give you a negative number. Finally, if you find this video useful, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn the notification on so that you get notified about new content. Thank you for watching.